President Trump has renewed a threat to impose sanctions on Russia if there is no progress towards a peaceful settlement in Ukraine in 2 weeks. Trump says he is not happy about a Russian strike that hit an American-owned factory in Ukraine, and he would make an important decision in 2 weeks, specifying that Moscow could face massive sanctions or tariffs. Trump showed his frustrations at Moscow as a summit between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy remains elusive, and the war continues unabated on the front lines. Tired of the lack of progress in his peace efforts, Trump likened Putin and Zelenskyy to oil and vinegar. Trump, however, showed off a photo that he said Putin had sent him after their landmark summit in Alaska a week ago. He also said that he may invite the Russian leader to the 2026 FIFA World Cup finals being held in the United States if there is progress on Ukraine. Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin visited the town of Sarov, home to a major Russian nuclear weapons facility, and expressed optimism about Russia-US relations, saying he sees a light at the end of the tunnel.
To be honest, what projects have we lost from so-called unfriendly countries? Well, by the way, we don't have unfriendly countries. We have unfriendly elites in some countries. But I can assure you that we have good relations with the peoples of those countries.
Putin said the two countries are exploring joint projects in the Arctic and Alaska. He also noted that Russia does not consider any country unfriendly, but rather there are unfriendly elites in certain nations who engage in propaganda against Russia. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy welcomed NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte in Kyiv for talks focused on security guarantees, weapons and supplies, and also diplomatic efforts to end the war. In other developments, Estonian Prime Minister Kristen Michal has said that his country is ready to participate in a peacekeeping operation in Ukraine with a force of around 150 troops. Ms. Jane Kinninmore is the Chief Executive Officer at the United Nations Association UK and a Senior Associate Fellow at the ELN. She's now joining us live from London. Ms. Kinninmore, thank you very much for making time for us, and welcome to WION World as One. Do you have any hopes of this war ending anytime soon? Because Trump is saying 2 weeks, and 2 weeks, if in 2 weeks Russia does not have a peace deal, then sanctions will follow.
It's very uncertain, and he has left himself a get-out clause. He has said, maybe I will put on these massive sanctions, but he has also said, or I might walk away and say that it is your fight. So that echoes previous things that he said, where he said that basically if he gets fed up, he will stop trying to mediate and leave the two sides to it. And basically everybody else involved is trying to signal that they would be quite happy to continue fighting. But is that really true? Well, one of the big questions is whether Putin really does want to end the war if he has anything short of the total victory that he is asking for, which, according to him, should even see Ukraine hand over some territory that Russia hasn't managed to conquer militarily. So the sides are still very far apart, at least from what we can see in public.
Ms. Kinninmore, I want your thoughts about this summit. One, the summit between Trump and Putin, the other one between Trump, EU leaders, and Zelensky, and there is a possible trilateral between Zelensky, Putin, and Trump. Do you think these summits are a farce?
It's been a big week for summits, and certainly in-person meetings between key leaders can be moments when breakthroughs happen. But the problem is there doesn't seem to be much of a process going on behind the scenes to get into the depth of the issues and get the work done out of the media spotlight, because when everybody is watching these things on TV, or at least half of the discussions are live on TV, it becomes more and more about people posturing towards their audiences back at home. And that's why, when you look at United Nations mediation processes, those are usually out of the spotlight. Very often peace processes happen with no one knowing about them at all, so that you don't get that kind of pressure of people feeling, I'm doing all this on the public stage and therefore I cannot compromise. So doing these things in the spotlight, it does tend to make compromises less likely to happen.
Ms. Jane Kinnan-Moore, thank you very much for your time. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you for talking to us today.
Thank you.